In today's tutorial, we will be laying artificial grass down onto soft surfaces. Soft surfaces are areas which had soil or vegetation originally. Begin by drawing up a plan of the area that the artificial grass will be placed on. Ensure that the pile direction of every roll of grass faces the same direction. Here is a very basic plan that shows the pile direction, width and length of the space and the metres of grass rolls. Make sure to leave about 10 to 20 centimetres excess on the edges for cutting and joining. Gravel, also called 804, is first placed on the ground to create a drainage system underneath the grass. Then you cover the gravel with quarry dust to give a stable, porous surface. A weed membrane comes next to stop anything from growing up through the drainage holes in the grass, and finally comes the artificial grass. You should have most of the tools needed for this job in your garden shed. However, you may need to rent a whacker plate from your local hardware store. We strongly recommend this. The rest of the material required can be purchased from your local builder supplier or hardware store, while the weed membrane, glue and joining tape can be purchased with the grass. A power brush is not required, but can be helpful if you have a large area. Step 1. Ground preparation. Start by digging out the existing garden or any vegetation. Make sure to remove large stones and then even the surface using a garden rake. You will need to dig down approximately 4 to 6 inches from the height you wish your finished garden to be. If you suffer from drainage issues, you may need to dig down deeper for gravel infill or install a drainage solution like a French drain. When preparing your ground, make sure that your levels ensure that the water flows away from your house or shed. Step 2. Laying the base. Bring in the gravel and spread it evenly on the surface with a garden rake. Smooth out with a straight edge and make sure that your levels are correct. Compress the gravel using a whacker plate, then add more 804 gravel if any depressions still show. Finish laying the base by adding around 1 inch of quarry dust. This will allow water through when compressed, but will not show heel strikes or footprints, and it will also protect the artificial grass from the sharper gravel stones below. After laying the quarry dust, compress it again with the whacker plate. When using the whacker plate, a lot of dust can rise, so be sure to water down the quarry dust with a garden hose or bucket before compressing to keep down the dust. For corners and hard to reach places, something heavy like a flat, rough-neck tamper or heavy concrete block can be used. Step 3. Weed membrane. Pull out any weeds that remain along the edges, getting out the roots also if possible, then spray the area with weed killer before placing down the weed membrane. When placing the weed membrane, nail it down, ensuring that it overlaps by about 30 centimetres. Leave some membrane overhanging the edges and make sure to give yourself clearance for any doors in your garden. When laying the grass, make sure that there are no creases or folds in the roll. Lay the rolls of grass right by each other, ensuring that all the rolls of grass lay flat on the surface. If you do have creases or folds in the grass, leave it unrolled for 24 hours before moving on to the next step, and the creases should come out as the material settles. Step 5. Joining the grass. After laying the grass out, use a sharp blade to cut off the factory edges, as these often are not perfectly cut along the stitch. Count back 3 stitches from the factory edge and cut the grass between 2 lines of stitches. Take your joining tape and fold back the 2 pieces of grass which you are going to join. Lay the tape down where these 2 pieces meet and nail the tape down to stop it from blowing or moving. Using a silicone gun and a tube of glue from artificial grass, place the adhesive on the tape and spread to around 1 centimetre from the edge of the joining tape. Once the glue has been spread down the length of the tape, Carefully join the edges of the rolls of grass by stitching them together with your hands. Be very careful here not to trap any grass fibres under the join. Brush the fibres together with your hand to hide the join. Step 6. For finishing the edges, nail down the grass using 6-inch nails, keeping each nail 6 inches apart. Simply drive these nails down into the base below. Be careful not to damage the grass when you are doing this. Step 7. Finishing. Using a power brush can give your garden an amazing and professional finish. These can also be rented from most hardware stores. If you do not have this tool, then you can use a hard bristled yard brush. Brush it in the direction of the fibres once to remove any dirt and debris which may have found its way into the grass, and then brush it against the grain once to raise up the pile and to give your garden that striking professional finish.